Hey everyone, it's Ivan with kitbadger.com, out here for another gun review, and today talking about this little rifle right here. This right here is by Aero Precision. It is their Solus in their competition chassis, chambered in 6mm Creedmoor. So this will continue to get heavier as I speak to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it on a tripod so I don't have to continue to hold it. But this rifle, it's pretty rad. If you haven't seen a video, I actually did a video on going to Aero Precision over there in Washington and actually building this from the ground up, to include then going and test firing it at their indoor range. Since then, I've shot it a lot, and yeah, there's a lot of cool things going on with it. So I'll go over some of the features. As I had mentioned, this is the competition chassis. So the Solus is in reference to their action, and then of course they have complete guns, this being their Solus in the competition chassis. And as I mentioned, this one is chambered in 6mm Creedmoor, so 26-inch barrel. Sinduro, probably mispronouncing that, profile. Not really familiar, but ultimately pretty heavy profile all in all, eventually tapers down. And they come threaded, 1/2x28. I ended up originally putting a cherry bomb on there, in part because I have a bunch of Q cans, and so a lot of shooting I did actually was with the Thunder Chicken on here. Q's kind of biggest can, 30 cal. Did great. Eventually got myself Lahar, which is, again, by Aero Precision. This one is kind of the middle. So they also have a K can, and then they have a long can, again, 30 caliber. What's nice though, it's a hub mount, so could put a Plan B on there and then throw this guy on here. And because of the cherry bomb and the Plan B, ultimately ends up keeping the whole package, grab a thread, whole package a lot lighter than it would otherwise be with other cans. And this being competition, the whole bottom of this is a Arca rail. Wrong way, there we go. And so with it, you can use pretty much any type of Arca, or anything compatible with Arca rather. So by way of example, right here, it is on this tripod, Arca mount by Ultradyne. And then up here, I actually have this, which I can of course move or completely take off if I want to, on this Arca rail, my Bipod Atlas Bipod, which is really handy depending on how you decide to end up shooting it. Some other kind of cool things with the chassis too is up front here, you may or may not see it very well, but there's a whole series of threaded holes. You can essentially put a top rail on here. So if you're going to end up shooting with a clip-on thermal or night vision, you can of course do that there. And then I guess I'll show you some other kind of cool stuff back here with the chassis as well. Coming back here to the actual Solus action, it fits kind of a footprint of a Remington 700. Definitely some differences. One, it's 60-degree throw, really nice actual bolt handle on here. And things I actually like about it too is you have a built-in 20 MOA base, really handy, and it cocks on the up position. So if you are going to go ahead and do some dry fire, forward is fire. As you go through and dry fire, you can go ahead and just cock it like that, right back on it, and continue with your dry fire. The trigger on these uses the Trigger Tech, which is really, really nice. I, since building this, have never done anything as far as adjusted or anything like that, but really nice and distinct, just super clean. And other things that are nice about this whole setup, uses AICS, I guess it is, Accuracy International pattern magazines. This one right here comes with it, Magpul 10-rounder, and you can actually adjust this right here, this being the mag release, to, I guess, really fit with other magazines. I've never had to adjust it, I'm not sure, but it is a feature. Other things that are nice, this guy right here actually, this thumb ramp for, again, depending on how you shoot, if you wrap your thumb, that's fine. A lot of people, myself included, will go ahead and throw it up on there. Really nice. You can actually adjust it a little bit too. You can move it back depending on where you want it. I have it all the way forward, works well for me. Then of course back here we can actually adjust the comb height and length of pull. The way these work, they're captured. You just twist them. Damn it, it's tight. Maybe we won't twist that one. Twist this one. Twist it, push it through, and then at that point you can go ahead and adjust it up or down. I will put it back to where I had it. There-ish. I'll check it in a second. And then tighten it, you're good to go. Overall pretty, oh yeah, right here too, a bag rider, if you use that, which I most certainly do as well. Which I guess brings me to how have I used this? Well, I've shot it a lot. I initially had on, I guess I'll go over how I have it set up right now. I initially had it set up with the EOTech 5-25 EOTech Voodoo. Did good, shot it a bunch with that on it. And yeah, actually shot it a lot like that. I want to say I ended up shooting my first ever PRS match, local over in Washington. And it was really fun. Shot through all the courses of fire. And again, first time ever shooting a competition like that. And it did great. It did everything I asked. Definitely missed, but was not on the gun. It was definitely on me. And yeah, had a really fun time just honestly shooting through that. Coming away from that, I won. Pretty cool. I only won because of default. I was actually shooting in the production category, and I was literally the only shooter in the production category. But good time out there. And since then, I have shot it a bunch more and ended up switching out a bunch of stuff. So I ended up actually getting this right here, which is the Leupold 3.6-18, the Mk5 HD, amazing optic, really like it. This one has the Trimmer 3 reticle in it. And then with that, it is mounted on this right here by Hawkins Precision. It is their, forget the verbiage, like their tactical mount, basically. And so with it, it has the diving board on there, and there's also a compass, which is pretty cool because with it, I have the Vortex 4000 or Vortex Impact 4000. It is a laser rangefinder and gives you a ballistic solution. So the way this is set up, turn it on for a second, turn that on, they pair. I've used it some without this right here being the remote, which is just Velcroed on there. I can, of course, put it anywhere. It also comes with a M-lock and a pick rail, so you can actually mount it onto, respectively, M-lock or pick rail. But the way I have it set up right now is, dang, I just lays something out there at 2,418 yards. My come up is 40.54 mils. I'm not going to take that shot, but so I can pop these off. This right here is actually by 100 Concepts. It is their Scope Cap Pro. Basically, it's a honeycomb, which not too worried about flash. It's a kill flash. What is nice is it's just really distinct, and you can actually pull it off if you want to. But how far are those rocks right there? 352 yards, up 1.29 mils. Really cool. And so, yeah, that is kind of the setup that's on it right now. And I've been shooting it mainly like this, well, basically since I ended up switching over from shooting that EOTech Voodoo on here. How is this done? It's done amazing. Since then, shot it a bunch, to include some trips out to Rock Lake Rifle Range, stretching this thing out, I think to 1,000 or 1,100. Thing did everything I asked of it. Then I want to say right after that trip to Rock Lake, ended up bringing this thing down to southern Idaho, do some hunting with it. And it did amazing. One, absolutely was confident and pretty competent with this setup. I think I had, before leaving Rock Lake, I think I ended up zeroing it with, I want to say it was a Hornady, like 90 grain solid copper basically. But sure enough, down here, that first night after getting down here, ended up sitting, waiting. This deer came out, beautiful white-tailed buck. I'm like, okay, how far is it? I did not have this on here because in Idaho you can't have electronics other than you can have like an electronic optic as far as illumination or something, but you can't have electronics on your gun. Did not have that on here. So ended up ranging it with some binos. I think the SIG Kilo 10K Gen 2. Awesome, give you a ballistic solution in there. And got my ballistic solution, turned it up. I think it was about 460 yards. And yeah, made my shot. It was awesome. Really stoked to go ahead and fill the freezer with that amazing deer. And what else have I done since then? Oh, more shooting. I actually ended up going to shoot this at another PRS competition. Again, same place over in Washington. I think it's called the Farm Out. Pretty cool spot. And kind of as a proof of concept for myself, whole rifle set up exactly like this with that Impact 4000. And I basically ranged everything on the clock and held. So kept this thing zeroed out, never touched my elevation, and went through and ranged, shot it, ranged, or held. So find my target, click, range it, hold, fire, run it, next target, on and on. And shot through all the stages like that. Probably not best practice as far as there's times where it actually makes sense to do that, and there's other times where you'd probably be better off actually just dialing and starting dialed. But honestly, I just wanted to do it, and it was pretty cool for me as just proof of concept. And this thing did an amazing job. I did not, however, end up winning that competition, but I had a lot of fun out there, and yeah, it was cool. This thing is definitely a laser. And speaking of this being a laser, I actually went out and shot some groups with it. A number of 10-shot groups at 100 yards, not to be confused with cherry-picked 3-shot groups. Not real. But I ended up actually going and shooting a number of 10-shot groups with a number of different loads through this thing, and here's what I got. Initially shooting some 105 grain boat tip hollow point Hornady Black. My first group came in at .975 MOA. Then switching over to some Federal Gold Medal Burger Open Tip Match 105 grain. My group came in at 1.086 MOA. I think there was a flyer in there. If we drop that one, it drops down to .84 MOA. Then shooting some Hornady 90 grain CX. Group came in at 1.46 MOA. And then the worst shooting ammo was actually some SIG 80 grain copper coming in at 2.40 MOA. And lastly, shooting some Hornady 90 grain GMX. My group came in at 1.29 MOA. Might have been a flyer there. If so, drops down to just over 1 MOA, 10-shot group. What are my thoughts? Honestly, it's a laser beam. Really impressed. And I will say shooting 10-shot groups, one, I'm not a half MOA shooter. I can shoot half MOA sometimes, definitely not all day, every day. Very few people are. And to get a 10-shot group under 1 MOA, it's actually a lot of work on my part. I'm sure a better shooter could honestly shoot better with this. I've been super impressed with this thing. This is my first gun in 6 Creedmoor, and this thing has done just an incredible job. I've been incredibly pleased with it. This whole setup too is actually a ton of fun also with this rangefinder on here, all of it. I actually came down, did some predator hunting one morning, shot my first coyote at I think like 560 something. Again, ranged it, dialed, one shot. went, saw another coyote, ranged it, shot way over it. I totally forgot I was trying to hold and I had already dialed. Did not work out well. Went ahead, dialed back, I guess, to what I needed to be, held where I needed to, almost. Fired, missed, ran the bolt one more time, fired, dropped it. Shot 3 times, in part because this is really quiet, and from that distance, I think like 550 or something, the impact was way louder than this was. Did not know where it was coming from. And then I think the last coyote that morning, I saw it like 677. Again, ranged it, fired 1 shot, nailed it. Pretty much a laser beam. Who do I think these guns would be good for? Well, one, if you're in a competition, amazing turnkey package. I actually really like this competition chassis. You can obviously adjust everything to you, really easy. Continuous arc rail for any accessories, shooting off a tripod, bipods, whatever it may be, bag rider. This grip, which is theirs, also really good. Like, so many great things. 20 MOA base, all of it. I want to say slick, it weighs right around 11 pounds, something in there, which not super light. They also have another version of their Solus, i.e. action, barrel action, that I think is in a KRG, I want to say, KRG stock, which is a little less expensive. Turnkey though, this setup right here in their competition chassis is like 2,200 bucks. Is that expensive? Not really. This right here, like minus optic and all that, like this gun setup in the chassis, like 10 years ago, was like a $5,000 custom rig. Really is. Part of it is just a testament to machining, where it's come today, in that they're able to offer this thing for, I think, like 2,200 bucks full MSRP, which is wild. Again, a decade ago, this is easily like $5,000 custom gun. Something else that's nice too is there's a number of different QDs. If you are going to actually run a sling, I've occasionally thrown a sling on here more. Well, I guess slings are usually for carrying. You can also build shooting positions too. But yeah, I think there's a ton of value there. This one, as I mentioned, is in 6 Creedmoor, which first gun I've ever owned in 6 Creedmoor. I actually really like it. They also offer shorter barrels in 6.5 Creedmoor as well as 308, depending on what you're looking for. This again, the Solus action being kind of a, well, it is, I guess, a short action pattern, kind of Remington. So you can actually get it just a barreled action, drop it in any chassis you want. This, of course, is the complete gun. Other things worth mentioning, really pretty easy as far as swapping barrels, and there's nothing crazy with it. It's like you don't have to go head space it or anything like that, which is actually really nice in that, one, eventually I'll probably shoot this out. People are always complaining, 6 Creedmoor, it's fast. It definitely is. I want to say with those 90 grain solid copper, the ones I was actually hunting with the other day, 3,300 and something feet per second, like screaming. And then even the 105s, I think, are 29. That Hornady Black I was shooting, pretty sure somewhere around like 29.77 or something like that. Moving really fast. And yes, eventually it will burn out the barrel. Doesn't matter. Not really. How many rounds am I going to get through? Probably over 1,000. Even if it was 1,000, what, $1.50 a round? I'm now $1,500 in ammo into a $2,200 gun, at which point I burned out my barrel, and now I have the opportunity to rebarrel it. Either that caliber or a different caliber. Probably money well spent. Like, definitely enjoyed those 1,000 rounds by the time it's burned out. But overall, I've been really stoked with this thing. Really neat gun. And if it's something you're interested in, there'll be links down below. You can go check it out. But yeah, like I said, had a ton of fun with this. And as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.